In the next half hour, you're going to meet a man who has a devoted following across India and indeed around the world. While yoga and meditation are at the core of his teachings to promote individual growth, the work of the foundation covers conservation, education and health. And you'll find him astonishingly pragmatic on a range of very modern-day problems. Let's meet Sadhguru.
We have the necessary resource, we have the necessary capability, we have the necessary technology to address every human problem on the planet. But the only thing that is missing is consciousness. We started a mass campaign and 6 years I spent planting trees in people's heads. That's the most difficult terrain, believe me. And now in the last 6 years we've been transplanting it and that's happening much more easily.
Action for Rural Rejuvenation is mainly aimed at rejuvenating the human spirit.
This is an incredible movement that is started in Tamil Nadu. We want to see that this happens to the whole country and revitalizing rural societies.
English and computer skills are very essential to make these children come out of the hopeless economic and social pit they are in. Whatever the nature of your business, ultimately, it is all about human well-being.
Isha Foundation, a non-religious, non-profit public service organisation headquartered in southern India.
We've engineered the outside world in so many ways, but we've done nothing about this one.
If you want to know well-being, in is the only way out.
An incredible rally starting from Kanyakumari, reaching up to the Himalayas with the sole purpose of rejuvenating India's rivers.
We are also launching another campaign called Kaveri Calling. This is 83,000 square kilometers of Kaveri basin. We want to bring it back, at least 1/3 of it, back into some kind of green cover. We are launching a campaign called Youth and Truth in the month of September. Youth and Truth, unplug with Sadhguru, ask whatever you want.
This precious life, where are you going to invest it? What is it that will be worthwhile today and worthwhile after 50 years? You invest your life into that.
You have to describe yourself in one word.
Would you consider wildlife as 2 words or 1 word?
Namaskaram, good morning, Stephen.
Good morning, Sadhguru. What can I say? It's just an absolute pleasure, a joy and a privilege to be able to have a chat with you. I think it'd be really good to start with just briefly for the audience to understand your take on consciousness, because I think it's quite unique and it's very important.
Well, when it was my time to be in school, I never wanted to be there. But today we are running so many schools. Efforts to make schooling into an interesting and enjoyable experience. So we created 3 different formats of schools. For rural India, one kind of school. For where parents can afford a certain level of investment on their children, we created another kind of school. And where parents are not concerned about whether their children earn a living or not, but they want them to become wonderful human beings, for that we created another level of school, because in any society, these segments or the strata are there in a given society, but in India it is starkly there, the well-to-do, the higher middle class, the upper middle class, lower middle class and the very poor, these segments are clearly, starkly different. So trying to force one kind of education on all of them is not fair and not practical either. So we are doing it this way. When we say education, first of all, we need to… I think a time has come when we can afford to redefine things. Till now, the last 100 years, education has largely been about as a means to earn a living. Most people are educating themselves because it is a means to earn a living, which I feel is a very basic form of human existence. But today, for the first time, we are moving into a space where probably the sooner the better, but there are various pros and cons to this. Probably in another 30 years or maybe 40 years, a maximum of 50 years, I would say, most people in this world need not work. That'll be a great time as far as I can see, because now human life will become about exploring the different possibilities of who you are, internally and externally, in terms of who you can be within yourself and in terms of what you can create in the world. It is not about every day getting up and going to work to earn your bread. Bread will be available for everyone, that is, if we conduct a few ecological things sensibly. Well, already people are working from home, and after some time you don't have to work from home either. This is going to come, especially for educators. I think they have not been to school for 1 year now. Online they're trying to do something, but all these things will change quite dramatically in the coming years because there is artificial learning, machine learning and things like that. So, having said that, what should education be about? Is it about just stuffing in some information into the child's head, which is what it's largely been? Say, if you read 100 books, you become a professor. If you read 10 books, you become a school teacher. If you read one book, you become God's own messenger. You know, this is how the world has been, because it's all about stuffing some memory in your head and believing that you have gotten to something. Education as a definition has to change now, because memory need not be carried in your head anymore. Your phone can carry more memory than 10 heads can carry. That much memory it is capable of. It may become capable of carrying 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times more in the next few years, it's very much possible. So, storing memory in your head and thinking you've reached somewhere, that era is over. This is a fundamental mistake that we have made with education systems across the world in the last 100 years. That is, we are misunderstanding memory for intelligence. Memory is not intelligence. Memory is a certain way of enriching our life. Human beings have the most vivid sense of memory. Because of this, our life is rich. But also, because of this, human beings are suffering. You ask anybody what they're suffering, what happened 10 years ago, they're still suffering. What may happen day after tomorrow, they're already suffering. Simply because they don't know how to handle their memory. There is no distinction between what is memory and what is intelligence, it's gotten mixed up. Because we have misunderstood intellect as intelligence. The entire education system today is completely focused on intellect. If you give me a few minutes, I can elaborate this. Is that okay?
Please do.
See, in terms of human intelligence, in the yogic system, we look at human mind as 16 parts. Of the 16 parts, there are 4 segments within the 16 parts. These 4 segments, one is intellect, which is the front end of our intelligence. Next is manas, which is called the silo of memory. When I say the silo of memory, everything that you are, from your physical form to your physical composition, how you are, and the kind of person that you are, what you like, what you dislike, what are your tendencies, everything is because of memory. There is evolutionary memory, there is genetic memory, there is unconscious memory, conscious memory, articulate and inarticulate memories like this. There are 8 forms of memory, let's not go into the detail of that. There is a silo of memory and there is a front end of intellect. If I ask anybody, or I can… because you are my victim right now, Stephen.
Thank you. Happy to be one.
I can ask you, if I ask you, do you want your intellect to be sharp or blunt, what's your choice?
Definitely sharp, I would say.
Sharp. That is a universal choice. So essentially, intellect is a cutting instrument, it's like a knife. If I give you a very sharp knife, If you do not know how to hold it, you will harm yourself and harm others. This is the reason why we would not give a sharp knife to a child's hand, not because knife is dangerous, because child's hand is unconscious and unsteady. If you hold the knife in the wrong end, everything hurts, you know. Everything hurts. Right now, a whole lot of people in the world have become like this, everything hurts. See, everything seems to be a serious problem in life today. If you're a toddler, you have diaper problems. If you become a teenager, you have hormonal problems. If you come to middle age, you are in crisis. Old age is horrible. Everything seems to be a problem simply because we are trying to address every aspect of life through our intellect, which is a cutting instrument. The only way intellect can operate is by dissection. So if I want to know you, Stephen, which I want to, should I dissect you or should I embrace you?
The embracing would be nice, given the COVID restrictions we've had, for sure.
Not just nice for you, but if I really want to know you, in some way I should include you, only then I know you. If I dissect you, I may see your liver, kidney, heart, spleen, but I won't know a thing about you because you won't be there. This is the nature of life. So life is happening in a certain way. Intellect is a cutting instrument, it's a knife. Well, when you want to cut something, you can use your knife. Let's say you want to stitch your clothes, but you have only one instrument. You stitch your clothes with your knife, you will be in tatters. That's why tatters have become fashion right now. People are… it's not just their clothes which are in tatters, their minds are in tatters, their emotion is in tatters, their life is in tatters. As a human generation, this generation of human beings have better comforts and conveniences than any generation ever before. No question, isn't it? In the history of humanity, no generation has had known these kinds of comforts and conveniences, but we are whining like nobody else, not because of anything, simply because we have a sharp knife and we don't know how to handle it, we keep poking ourselves. This may sound very cruel to certain people. If you are in a state of suffering, you must understand suffering can be inflicted upon you only by yourself. Somebody else can cause physical pain to you. Circumstances can cause physical pain to you, that's a different matter. That's not happening to too many people on the planet, fortunately. Somewhere in a war zone, famine, some other situation, injuries, such things may be happening. But for most human beings, all their suffering is self-inflicted because it's happening within themselves. What is this cause? The cause is just that they have a sharp intellect and they don't know how to handle it, so they keep poking themselves. If you take away half their brain, almost all of them will be peaceful.
So we talk much about well-being, and what you're saying is the well-being we need to find our way inside ourselves in order to understand ourselves better and to be able to…
No, I'm talking about the source of your suffering. The source of your suffering, unfortunately, is your intelligence, which is your greatest gift. The greatest gift that you have compared to other creatures on this planet is your intelligence. Unfortunately, that has become the source of suffering for most human beings, and this is rooted in the way we are conducting our education. The way we are conducting our education is so unipolar that inevitably that educated people are always more miserable than the uneducated people. Please look at this.
I know what you're saying. I was going in a taxi in Melbourne recently. A year ago. I was looking out of the window and watching everyone coming to work, and you could see the long faces on everyone. And you know, the only people who had the smiles that I could see were the people talking, which I thought was interesting. All on their way. It was through the central city district. I looked in London, exactly the same. About 4% of people have a big smile and they walk down. Everyone else looks very serious and is chewing on this.
So 4% is a bad percentage for any society to be happy.
Yeah, well, not to be, so preoccupied, I guess.
Let's not make a judgment about a nation or a culture. I'm saying this is related to the way we are conducting our education systems. Our education systems are banking on only one dimension of our intelligence. We are recognizing 4 dimensions of clear-cut dimensions of intelligence within the human being. But today our education system is just working the intellect and nothing else. Because of that, the more educated you become, the more troubled you are becoming. Education should liberate you, not enslave you in some kind of trouble.
So, to move forward then, for teachers then, because teachers have grown up in this system as well, so they have a certain expectation, and certainly we work with an awful lot of teachers on how do they change their practice, how do they develop it and become more sophisticated. And the more we do this, the more obvious it becomes that part of their imprint is from their parents, part of it is from their expectations of what they've grown up with, and part of it's what happened to them in schools, so they kind of replicate that, because often teachers are quite successful at replicating what was worked for them. So how do we bring this consciousness into a wider view so teachers can see it, feel it, and start to develop it?
See, how can you say it's worked for them? I'm always been saying this, that I am an uneducated guru. When I say I'm uneducated, people say, oh, no, Sadhguru, you're not. See, they don't understand how hard it is to remain uneducated. Because from the moment you're born, your parents, every other adult, teachers, priests, pundits, every other kind of person is trying to educate you, to teach you something that's not worked in their life. When I say it's not worked in their life, how they were as children, exuberant lives, today how they are, you can clearly see their education has not worked for them. Whatever they know has not worked because they have become lifeless. See, with age we may lose our agility of physical movement, but you don't have to become less alive, there's no such thing. Your aliveness will not come down, your joy and profoundness of experience will not come down, it has to enhance. But with education, people are becoming constipated in their head simply because they're misunderstanding their psychological process as a reality. What's happening in their head is not happening the way they want. How will the world happen the way they want?
So then, what would be your gifts, if you like, to teachers from here then, to say, what can they do differently, which they will wake up, they're very busy, we know schools are incredibly transactional, there's so many young people and adults in there, so they're in that busyness and they've got those predispositions that you talk about and that reliance on intellect. So how do they then start to break that? What would be, you're a great teacher, what would be your gifts to them to say, look, we can do this differently?
See, one important thing is the identity. People are getting identified in in England, they're getting identified with their football clubs, whether you're Chelsea or Liverpool or Manchester, that is their biggest identity. Some are identified with their religion, some with their family, some with their race. Like this variety of identities, ultimately it comes down to your own individual self. So one thing we need to fix is the identity, what kind of identity you take. Well, in India there was a system in ancient India which still is followed to some extent. A child, before the child starts education, generally from 0 to 12 years of age, there was no education as a rule. A child should play, eat and sleep, because body and brain should grow to the fullest possible size before you load it with any intent. So, up to 12 years it was so, but in today's world it may not be possible. At least 7 to 8 years it must be. Now I see that some of the Scandinavian countries are going in that direction, which is a very good direction to go. But some other cultures are going towards, at the age of 3.5, they want to start teaching them E is equal to mc squared. Some of them are trying to teach this when the mother is pregnant. To the unborn child, they want to teach mathematics. Well, if he calculates everything, he won't come out. He gets all the entire picture, he's not going to come out.
He might not want to come out.
So, allowing the child's body and brain to grow without too much stress is most important. But today even the children are looking so stressed out. Leaving that alone, at the age of 12, when they start the education, the first thing was that a child should take to universal or cosmic identity. There was a mantra that is being taught, Aham Brahmasmi. This means, I am the universe or I am the cosmos. So a child must take this identity and every day repeat this. Only then education, because education was seen as an empowerment. If you have to empower a human being, any human being who is empowered but has limited identity is a disastrous human being. Right now, what you're seeing as crime, what you're seeing as evil, what you're seeing as wars, what you're seeing as various kinds of human-made, man-made disasters is essentially because of limited identity, you versus me. So first thing, before you empower a human being with education, first thing is to take on cosmic identity, that I am everything. My identity is with all life in this universe. This is a very good way to go because small identity with big capabilities is a disastrous process. Just see, every invention or every discovery of science, every making of new technology, first it is used against somebody through, through defense forces or military, and then only it comes to more useful ways of doing things. Almost all the cutting-edge technology first goes into military because of limited identity. Our idea of me versus you is essentially because you're identified with something limited. Because the nature of the intellect is such, whatever you're identified with, your intellect will do everything possible to protect that identity. You will live for it and die for it. That's how it is. It becomes more important than your life, your identity. So it is important in the next generation that worldwide we must set up, if not cosmic identity, at least a global identity. It is important, as we sing our national anthems, every child must sing a global anthem, a common global anthem which is sung in a way that includes all life on this planet, not just human beings, because we are not an independent life. Our life is very interdependent. We cannot exist all by ourselves. This is one thing. Once your identity is not a limited identity, your intellect will become a boon in your life. When it is a limited identity, what you think is well-being is naturally against somebody else. This is one thing to fix. The next aspect of this is, there is a dimension of intelligence within us, which in yogic culture we call it as chitta. There is a dimension of intelligence within us. As all of us know, if we eat a piece of bread, this bread becomes flesh and bone within us. So there is that kind of intelligence within this system. This intelligence or a dimension of intelligence which is uninfluenced or untouched by any kind of memory. Memory means this, memory means something that is already there. Memory means no new possibility. So right now, what we are doing with our education is gather a bank of memory and produce permutations and combinations out of that memory, thinking they are new things. They are not new things. You're just deceiving yourself by, recycling the same thing over and over again in your head and thinking they are new, because in the very nature of intellect, intellect cannot function without data. Whatever data you have gathered consciously or unconsciously, it plays out in many different ways. Such variety that you think it is absolutely new. No, there is a dimension of intelligence which is unsullied by memory. It is important that everybody strives to touch it. When we say this intelligence, well, in English language probably we can say this is consciousness. When I say consciousness, right now the word consciousness is being used very loosely in terms of like we are calling it as environmental consciousness, business consciousness, not like that. I'm talking about consciousness per se. You and me are here and we know that we are here because we are conscious. This is the basis of our life. I am alive means, why am I saying I am alive? Because I am conscious. If I am unconscious, I don't know whether I am alive or dead, isn't it? So the very basis of my aliveness, the very basis of my existence is my consciousness. Now, we know that this body, when we were born it was only this much, it became this much. There is an intelligence here which made all this happen. We provided material from outside, but the bread does not look like human body. The food that you eat does not look anything like you or me, but it becomes like this because there is an intelligence which can transform a piece of bread into a human being, which is a tremendous shift in its possibilities, in its potential and its capabilities. So this shift is happening within us, and there is this intelligence in every human being. If you can digest a morsel of food, that is enough proof that there is an intelligence like this within you. When there is such an intelligence which can make a piece of bread into human being, which is the most complex material on this planet as a human being, if we do not access that, that's a crime. 12, 15 years of education, if there is no focus on how to access this is a tremendous crime, because we are enslaving our children into our factories, into our businesses, into our financial machinery that we have created. So whole education has just become about how to enslave the new generation to work for the nonsense that we have created. This has to stop. Right now, still our economic situations everywhere in the world may not allow it, but we should start striving towards that. It's very important because today technology is coming to a place where a time will come when very few people on the planet need to work, rest of them don't need to work. That means you have your humanness all to yourself. If you have it all to yourself, if you are not conscious, if you have not touched some dimension within yourself which is beyond your physicality, all you will want to do is overeat, drink, drug and get lost, because when you do not know how to handle your consciousness in a blissful way, the only thing that you will choose is unconsciousness. Please just see where the world is going. People's idea of pleasure is becoming unconscious. How fantastic is that? You will anyway be unconscious when you're dead, you don't have to practice it now.
So to get this blissfulness into there, where would schools start then? You said age of 12, at what point are children in that situation where we can help that awareness, and what steps could teachers take in order to be able to move it, or schools themselves? Because it's a very different world when you look at it from a lens, certainly from where we are in England. You see fantastic teachers working incredibly hard, really crammed curriculum, very busy people, and it's how do we create that space, I guess.
See, even in England, children are very joyful creatures, all right? They may be seriously influenced by teachers and parents who are in various levels of stress and slowly destroy them, but as children, 3, 4, 5-year-old children are bursting with life, whether England or India or wherever. That is the nature of life. That is not the nature of India, that's not the nature of England or America. That is the nature of life, that it is exuberant. So at the age of 5, if you're so joyful, by the time you're 30, you should be ecstatic, if you're really growing. But unfortunately, just the reverse is happening. Should we not examine what is it that we are doing wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that's…
Is it not time to just stop and see what is it that we are doing so wrong? Because we are misunderstanding our needs as the ultimate goals of life. We have a need for livelihood, we have a need for home, we have a need for food and clothing. We are thinking these are the ultimate goals of life. Once you think like this, obviously you will be miserable, because something will be unfulfilled, always. It's in the very nature of the world. It's in the very nature of human desiring, because if you fulfill one desire, the next desire is always ready. This is the nature of human desiring, nothing wrong with that. But if your way of being is determined by what you have or you don't have, then you being miserable is normal. It's very normal, nothing out of place. You being depressed is very normal. I must tell you this. I went to the World Economic Forum, I've been going for some years, but in 2008 when I went there was an economic downturn in the Western world. So, this is a group of 11 to 1200 multi-billionaires, okay? But it was gloomy, the whole place was full of gloom, everybody looking miserable and depressed. Because they all had lost a few billions, they were worth a few billions less than what they were 6 months ago or 8 months ago. Then they asked me to handle a session, recession and depression. Then I told them, see, recession is bad enough. Some situation has gone against us. So depression you want to do, but now you have built your life in such a way, you have built the economic system in such a way that if you succeed, the world will fail, humanity will fail. There's a very classic story in the Indian parables called Panchatantra. There is a man sitting on the tree, on the wrong end of the branch, and vigorously cutting the branch with an axe. When he succeeds, he will fall. Right now, we have structured the world like this. When we succeed, we shall all fall. What a intelligent way to do things. Do you think this is intelligence? But this is what the educated people on the planet have done, because you must understand this. When you're miserable, you can only multiply misery. When you're joyful, you will multiply joy. Joy is not a goal of life. Joy is a fundamental ambience you need. If you want to enjoy the meal that you eat, you must be joyful. Otherwise, how can you enjoy the food that you eat? If you walk on the street, if you just want to enjoy the walk, you must be joyful, otherwise how can you enjoy it? So I am not talking about joy as an ultimate goal of life. It's a fundamental ambience that you need, and that ambience was given to you naturally when you are a child. You are joyful not for something, you are simply joyful. Somebody had to make you miserable. Today somebody has to make you joyful. How many conditions to be joyful? How many impossible conditions people are setting? This is because we have not handled human development the way we need to handle. One thing we need to understand is, for every other creature, let's say a tiger is born. For a tiger, 90% of his tigerness is all fixed by nature. 10% individual characteristics are there from one tiger to another. But with a human being, we have come largely unformed. Only 10% is fixed, 90% we have to evolve in this lifetime. Evolution is not just what happened from monkey to man. Right now, from your birth, day to day, from morning to evening, every day you have to evolve. If you refuse to evolve, you will remain little better than a monkey.
So these are big challenges indeed, and the fate, I guess, is even stronger in terms of the impulse.
No, I'm saying evolutionary theory has to become a theme in the school, not just like Charles Darwin said this, that. Well, the fundamental thing is, what Charles Darwin said 150 years ago, over 15,000 years ago, Adi Yogi spoke that if you strive, life will evolve. And he said how from life being in water, it became amphibious, then it became mammals, and then it became half man, half animal. Like this, they explained this 15,000 years ago. And then he said, once you become a human being, natural process of evolution has stopped for you. He showed mathematical calculations as to why natural form of evolution has stopped for you. You can only evolve consciously from here on. Evolution does not mean you have to grow some horns or tail or something. That type of evolution is over. But from today morning, from the time you wake up till time you go to sleep, these 18 hours of time, you could evolve significantly in 18 hours of time, if you are willing and conscious. So if that process is not set forth in our education process, that we are constantly evolving and only with our conscious striving will we evolve. If this is not there, then we have very knowledgeable monkeys who are turning the world upside down.
So, I take on board all that. There seems to be two approaches within your schools, from what I'm understanding. One is the kind of open mind, if you like, and letting the child explore and follow their passions, and the role of the teacher is much more about the spotting the moment or in the moment planning around them. The other has a more even didactic quality to it in terms of the yoga that you do with them, where you actually train people to a certain degree to explore their inner selves and to settle their minds a little. The two balances are quite interesting, and I just wonder, from a teaching point of view, which one do you find more satisfactory, and which one do you find has the greatest impact on the learners, adults or children?
As I said, society has many stratas, you cannot ignore it, all right? It's not my making, it's like that, the world is like that right now. Not every family, not every child can aspire for the same things yet. We are not in that kind of situation. Largely it is better than what it was 500 years ago or even 100 years ago. Many things have been leveled out, but still economic disparity sets up different kinds of platforms for different people. For some, all they're bothered about is their physical survival, somehow earn a living. What can education give me to earn a living? For some, they've crossed that line, their families have crossed that line, so now they're looking at how to develop some talent, some skills, something else. For some, none of these things are a concern, employment, this, that. They just want to become wonderful human beings, they want to develop arts, music and these kind of things. So these are different requirements. I am not trying to say one is better than the other, all I'm saying is these are different types of needs in people. But these needs could dramatically change in the next 25 years with the way technology is evolving. The one thing that distresses me is technology is evolving faster than human beings, that's a wrong thing. Human beings should be ahead of the technology, then they will use the technological development in a very sane and balanced way. Right now, technology also is becoming a big problem because technology is evolving beyond you. Today everybody says, I have a smartphone. See, you will call somebody smart only when they're smarter than you, isn't it? So if you call a phone smart, obviously it's the smartest thing that you have, not your brains. So I'm not trying to insult people, I'm saying we are handling basic things all wrong. Simple things. I'll tell you a simple thing that I experimented in the school and worked fantastic, and now I see even in ancient times these things were being done. When we started the first school here, almost 16 years ago or more than that, I went one day, all these 7-year-old kids were there, I went to see them in the morning, they were all sitting in the morning assembly. They're all broken tops like this, like they can't sit in one place, they're like this. I said, why are these kids like broken tops? What's wrong with them? They're healthy children, but why can't they sit in one place? Then I said, let's do this, every day morning, 12 minutes, the 7 notes of the music. You have a different kind of notes, but here it's sarigama padanisa, just these 7 notes, 12 minutes a day. After 3 or 4 months I go back, children are all still sitting like this, unmoving, still. This is very important, I'm saying what sounds can do, what sights can do, what atmosphere around you can do for a child growing up is something completely we have forgotten. We are running schools in the, in the industrial towns, here, there. It is a reality we cannot get away from, all right? We have to run schools wherever children are, that is understood. But still, it need not be done like a factory. Right now, it's an education factory. Question is, how many marks did you get in the end? That's it. There is no subjectivity. How can education be done without subjectivity? How can education be done without inspiration? It's simply just information is not education. This we will realize in a very harsh way in the next few years as machine learning becomes more and more prevalent. Human beings will wonder, why the hell are we here? Already it's happening. Suicide is on big rise, drug usage is on big rise, alcoholic addictions are on big rise. All this, it is not because of individuals, we can always label them, oh, this is a drug addict, this is an alcoholic, this is suicidal tendencies, that's not the thing. The entire human population is moving in this direction where there is no sense of purpose. So sense of purpose in the past, we created, religious people said we want to go to heaven, but I think that's a crime. Just the idea that there's a better place to live than this is a crime in my opinion, because it denies people the possibility of living well here. Otherwise, Otherwise, people created other kinds of goals, my family, my religion, my race, my nation, I'm willing to live for this and die for this. Some purpose kept people busy. All these purposes with which we drove our lives just 50 years ago are slowly becoming meaningless. What is the new goal? So now the new goal is, I want to wear Gucci shoes, I want to drive Mercedes-Benz, I want to drive this, that. This is the life goals right now, all right?
Or I want to be a celebrity.
What is that?
I want to be a celebrity.
Celebrity, okay. That is, even if nobody celebrates you, you celebrate yourself. Whatever, these kind of goals. So, these kind of goals can hold your attention for a period of time. After some time, you yourself will feel ridiculous because wearing those kind of clothes, wearing those kind of jewels, sitting in that kind of car, you still are the same miserable nonsense. So, you will feel meaningless and purposeless. So, now you see people who have achieved high levels of success suddenly kill themselves. Nobody around them understands why. Because this is the thing, life cannot happen. Either it needs a false purpose which will keep you busy, or you need consciousness, otherwise it cannot happen. Keeping yourself with a false purpose, those times are going away because everybody is well informed. There was a time only one man in the town could read the book, so at that time he read that book and talked about another world somewhere else, it all worked well. But those days are gone, everybody is researching everything else in the world, so false purposes won't last. Even your idea of nationhood may be completely extinct in another 100 years for all you know, and it'll be a great thing if that happens. Because if nations go, armies go, if nations go, navies go, if nations go, bombs go, if nations go, nuclear bombs will disappear, all this will happen. But the identity, small identified purposes may not mean much in future. And slowly, see, people are enjoying wearing rags. The richest people want to wear something torn. Just look at that. This is something that a workman or a laborer or a beggar on the street wore tattered clothes. Now people are paying money to have their clothes tattered. This is because good clothes have lost their meaning. Nice-looking, shiny clothes have lost their meaning. You want something faded, torn, then only you feel good. So I'm saying this is happening not just to your clothes, it is happening to all aspects of life because you were running your life on false goals and now you feel lost. The only and only thing that human being can do, irrespective of the times in which we live. See, there are times, right now there is a war going on in our country. Right now this becomes your purpose, you want to win this war, all right? So it looks like it's a real purpose, but in another time it'll not mean anything. But what is that one thing which will make a human being fulfilled irrespective of the times in which we exist? That is something that education should invest in. That is, a human being is capable of going beyond his physical accumulations. When I say physical accumulations, what you call as body is an accumulation, what you call as your mind is an accumulation. These accumulations will facilitate our survival better. Your body is strong, your survival is good. Your mind is strong, your survival is even better. But this will not fulfill your life. Only when your experience of life transcends these accumulations. What you accumulate can be yours, can never ever be you. This one thing has to sink into every child early on. Then you will accumulate only what you need for the purpose that you want to fulfill. Our purposes may be different as to what we want to do with our lives, accordingly we'll gather those things only. Right now everybody is gathering everything and it's an ecological disaster also because everybody is gathering everything. But now we built a market economy, doesn't matter whether you need it or not, please buy it. Everybody is telling you that, all the advertisements are telling you this, now the political leaderships are telling you this, go and spend some money, buy something. Oh, I don't need anything. No, buy something, that's the economy. So we have built an unrealistic goals. These unrealistic and false goals that we have created inevitably will bring a certain vacuum in our lives. We try to fulfill this with relationships, with ideologies, with belief systems, but still there is a hollowness which troubles you. That's why human beings are generally walking around with long faces. Only when they find some wealth or success or love, something like this, for some time they are blooming like that. Once that fades, again they're gone. So, this has to change means we have to invest in human consciousness. When I say consciousness, I'm talking about a dimension which is not gathered from outside, which is life per se. Body is gathered, clothes are gathered, wealth is gathered, information in the head is gathered. Our gatherings are useful. We must gather to the extent that is necessary for our lives. Otherwise, slowly most homes, most houses have turned into warehouses.
Yeah. And can I ask you about the electronic devices and children? Because now I watch my daughter, she's 11 years old, she's on the iPad doing her lessons or on a laptop, mobile phone going. I don't really particularly like electronic devices. Does it interfere with the human development process, and does it take us further away from a consciousness, or?
Get her a puppy, she won't look at the iPad.
we did, and she loves the puppy. She's not so bad, but we…
Better get her a chimpanzee, she won't look at the iPad. Or you get her a boa snake, she won't look at the iPad. The problem is not about one snake or one puppy or whatever, that's cruel to bring those things into homes. But there is no involvement with nature. Adults have lost it, so naturally they never thought of bringing their children in connection with that. So right now, wherever we set up these schools, home schools at least, I'm saying minimum 100 acres must be there. People are saying, why do you need 100 acres? Because we limit the number to 340, 350. So why do you need 100 acres? I say, children should move around. They must be bitten by an insect, threatened by a snake. Children should experience all this. Otherwise, they will invest their entire life into the phone screen. Phone is a tremendously useful instrument. But today, in America I found out they have phone de-addiction centers, okay? Technology de-addiction centers. That is, it's become like a drug, it's destroying people's lives. Anything useful that's given to you, you will destroy it. You will use it for destruction. We gave you a sharp intellect. If you had the brains of an earthworm, you would be fine and eco-friendly. But because you got such a big brain, now this is trouble. We give you technology, that is trouble. We give you a phone, that's trouble. iPad, that is trouble. Everything is becoming problem because we are not conscious. We are compulsive in nature. Unless we become conscious human beings, we have not fully given up our heritage of being in the animal world. The animals are built in such a way that they are compulsive, instinctive reaction, they survive. But once you become human being, everything that the animal does, we also do, but we can do it consciously. That is the significant thing. If we do not invest in making our children conscious, if our schools are not built and based on this, all the information that you are spreading, all the information that you're stuffing into their heads, believe me, that is what is destroying the world. Tell me honestly, are the educated people destroying the planet or the uneducated people destroying the planet?
Yeah, it's the educated ones. They have so much more reach, yeah.
How unfortunate. Educated people should be the saviors of this world. Unfortunately, they are destroying because it is just information, no consciousness, just information.
It's true. As part of the summit, we're inviting the Aisha Foundation, are doing several sessions to explore a lot more in depth about this, about what we eat, about the way we are, about the sort of practices that potentially people could do. So it's great to have you and your team here. Could you just tell us a bit more about the foundations of Conscious Planet? Because I think you're talking here now about 3 billion minds together, and how we bring that together and make that happen. And you've attempted some amazing, amazing things that are beyond the recognition of most people. I think cleaning rivers, planting a billion trees, just phenomenal things. So now 3 billion people together. How does that start, and how can children help, and how can we help that happen?
About the Conscious Planet, this is two different aspects. One is about human consciousness and how our neurological system, which includes our brain and the many sensations that we have, which make us such a complex and wonderful life that we are, which should be the greatest joy because we are… in terms of evolutionary pile, we are literally on top of the world. But if you look at human beings, they don't look like they're on top of the world they're not feeling top of the world, but actually we are literally on top of the world. The millions or trillions of life forms that are there, we are sitting right on the top, but we are suffering the top right now. So this is one aspect of human consciousness or conscious planet. Another aspect is there is an ecological element which we cannot ignore in the times that we live. So one aspect of this conscious planet is ecological awareness, that is, according to the latitudinal segments of tropics, subtropics, temperate like this, we are coming up with simple things, simple 5 things that everybody who lives in that region should know. And we want this to become part of the electoral process because nearly 90% of the nations are democratic in nation. Unless people will it, it's not going to happen. Why ecological issues are not taken up on the footing that it must be taken is simply because democratic governments last 4 to 5 years or in some nations up to 6 years, that's it. 6 years is the maximum lifespan they have. So which politician would want to invest a lot of money, machinery and everything into some aspect which will yield results in 20-25 years? He doesn't want to do that. He would like to do something which yields results within 4 to 6 years' time, because this long-term investment, the results will not come to him. So it's very important that 60% of every country's population in some way should insist that ecology should be part of political agenda. Well, right now economy is the first point, we will leave that. At least the second point in every political manifesto should be number 2 item must be ecology. That's what we are striving for. For this, at least 3 to 3 points, there are 5.26 billion people on this planet who have franchise. That means they have the power to vote and determine the governments in which should rule their nations. So among these, at least 3 to 3.5 billion people, if they understand this, that 5 things that must happen in our country, 2 or 3 things that should never happen in our country, to this extent, because right now ecological sciences is like PhD stuff running into thousands of pages, nobody understands what it is, common people on the street have no understanding. In my opinion, right now ecology is a concern probably for 2% of the population. We want to increase this to 60%. Only then democratically elected governments will act. It's the numbers which matter in a democratic nation. So we are trying to do that. As a part of this, we'll be doing many things. We will be coming to UK because COP26 is in Glasgow, and in some way, we will be a part of it in one way or the other. But it will be launched from UK, Stephen, and we will need all your support. And this process will need many steps. We already taken various steps. But in the next 2 to 3 years' time, I feel in 3 years' time, bringing 3 to 3.5 billion people to this much awareness is possible. Another dimension of conscious planet is, we want human beings to understand that human experience happens from within. Joy or misery, pain or pleasure, agony or ecstasy, the source of it is within you. If every human being understands this, we will have a fantastic world. We are striving towards that. I can say this because this 2020, in many ways it's caused much pain and suffering to people, but in this 2020, this is the first time I would say, I'm not trying to brag about myself, but this is the first time that spiritual content which is about self-transformation, spiritual not in a religious way, does not belong to any religion, no miracles offered, no tickets to heaven sold, nothing. Just hard talk about self-transformation. For the first time this is happening. Our video impressions this year has been 1.83 billion. So getting to 3.6 billion is not such a big challenge if everybody stands together. This one simple thing must get to every human being. Whatever is your experience of life right now, joy or misery, pain or pleasure, agony or ecstasy, it is happening from within you. If you wish, you can change that. Once you say how, that means there is a means to change that. So at least you must start asking how. If how becomes the question, then methods can be given, there are various ways to do it.
So I think one of the things you passed to me, which I took on board, was 95% of what you think about is stuff you thought about the previous day or the day before or the day before. So that if you can lose that piece, it creates a lot of space in your mind, which I think helps a little bit along the way.
See, this is also going on, people saying, don't think about the past, don't think about the future. It is not necessary. The significance of being human is, see, the one quality or two qualities which are setting us apart from every other creature is, we have a vivid sense of memory and a fantastic sense of imagination. So today, in the name of teachings and all kinds of new age teachings coming up and saying, don't think about the past, don't think about the future. Well, if you don't think about the past and future, you will become a dumb dodo, okay? It is very important. I remember every little experience, pleasant, unpleasant, horrible and fantastic experiences that I had in my life, every bit I remember, but my memory is one thing, my experience is something different, because these two things are not connected. Only because something that happened yesterday is not alive today. It is only there in your memory. You're misunderstanding your memory as a reality and suffering that. So that distinction has to come means a certain amount of consciousness has to arise. Certain amount of investment of time and energy needs to happen into this, that you can remember everything. If you forget all the horrible experiences of your life, then you will walk into the same pit again and again and again. It is extremely important, especially if the experience of life has been bad, you must remember. But remembering something does not mean you have to live it again and again.
Thank you for the precision with that one, that was very appreciative. So in terms of gift for the children then, meditation's one practice which a lot of children find quite difficult from where they come from at the moment, because they're moving from electronic devices, certain foodstuffs and things like that. How do we get that established, at least as a practice? Because it seems to be incredibly powerful and powerful between the work, and certainly my own experience of it, it's been quite profound.
See, for young children below 12 years of age, I would say instead of introducing the word meditation, there is I already mentioned this in terms of using the sounds or the notes of the music and stuff like that. There is substantial evidence, medical evidence to show that by listening to classical music, I don't know much about the Western classical music, but the Indian classical music, by listening to it, how your chemistry changes, how your neuronal response changes, how different parts of the brain which were never activated become all active in a very positive way. These things are well established. It even modulates the gene response within the system. That means even your genetics can be altered by listening to the right kind of sounds. So instead of bringing what we call as meditation, because the English word meditation is not specific to anything, it's not saying anything specific, there are many varieties of doing things with your eyes closed, let's not go into that. The simple thing you can do from a young child to up to 12 years of age is, we can choose certain types of music and they listen to it over and over again. This will make a phenomenal difference. We have found that even autistic children respond extremely well and they're much calmer and better when they're listening to this kind of music. If they're saying even they experimented with animals and cows and others are yielding better, they're calmer, they're happier, there are less diseases, less infections, just because somebody is playing music in the animal farms. I'm saying that is the kind of impact sound has. We must understand there is sound and there is word. A word is just a sound for which we are attaching a meaning. See, for example, your English, but I am also beginning to speak some English, please pardon me if you cannot understand my English. But suppose I speak in one of the southern Indian languages, it's just sound for you, isn't it? A word is just a sound. Language is a conspiracy between two people. I utter a sound, both of us have agreed what that sound is supposed to mean. There is no such thing written anywhere. It's all made up by human beings. But sound is an existential reality. Sound is a reverberation. In many ways, modern science is going out to a place where it is saying there is no such thing as substance, everything is really a vibration. So where there's a vibration, there is a sound, and where there is a sound, naturally there is a vibration. If you get to the right kinds of vibrations by using the right kind of sounds, just reorganizing the entire system, particularly in a child whose other influences are still very limited, but sound enters him very deep. So, using music as a therapy, using music as a way to evolve the child, children just listen to the music with eyes closed, but one must choose this music because today all the music is all that makes your body jumpy. You have to jump around. Maybe it's okay in a party, but you want to evolve the child, you must choose… Actually, there's an ancient text in India which is called as Raga Chikitsa. That means, raga means there are particular compositions of sound, and Raga Chikitsa means raga treatment or therapy. That I'm saying 1,000-year-old book where they're talking about how you can use these compositions to treat human beings of various ailments, and particularly neurologically, this is our problem. We have the most advanced neurological system on the planet. So our cognition should be the highest thing. Our ability to perceive and experience is at its highest. That's why the neurological system is at that level. But unfortunately, that is our trouble. We drink alcohol, we drug, we sleep, we overeat. Why do we do all these things? Because we are not able to handle the neurological perception. Too much perception, we are thinking, no, nothing is too much. Because human system is able to absorb, digest and utilize all that we perceive. But this perception will be crippled the moment we do not know how to be joyful and stable within ourselves. So it's important for children between whatever, from early age, from birth to 12 years of age, instead of trying to teach various other practices, which is complex and difficult to teach, various levels of training is needed, but choosing a certain kind of music which makes them peaceful. If you play this music, if children become less moving and become still, that means that's a good music. We can select, otherwise there is substantial knowledge here, there are experts in the field, we can send you that kind of music, where initially they may not, identify with this because they're born in a different culture, but if you just make them listen over a period of time, they will become very calm and alert. This is very, very important for a child because he is just trying to drink life in. He must drink it in the right way. See, if I perceive you, if I meet you when I'm very happy, I will perceive you're a wonderful man. If I meet you when I'm frustrated, I think you're a horrible man. You're still the same man. But in my experience, it's like that. So it's very important, a child when the child is in a formative age, when they're growing up, it's very, very important, they must be in that level of pleasantness so that they perceive life the right way. Otherwise, they'll all see the underbelly of everything.
Fantastic. Can I ask you one more question, which is, we'll have a lot of school leaders and school system leaders at the event. What would be your one message to them? What could they do that would make the planet better and more conscious?
See, if you're a teacher, you are among the easiest audience that you can have. If you're a teacher like me, you always have tough audience all over the place, full of resistance. You are handling children, the most pleasant part of humanity you are handling. So, but the problem is that the children don't want to listen to you. A teacher or even a parent, unfortunately, want their children to listen to them. A child doesn't want to listen to you. The child just observes you, how you are. So, the most important thing is, you must make yourself… If you're a teacher, first and foremost thing is, at least in the summer vacations, invest upon yourself, how to become a wonderful human being. How wonderful means, if children see you, they must look at you and think, wow, this is how I want to be. You must become a superstar in their eyes. Once you become a superstar in your eyes, you are like a Pied Piper. You tell them mathematics, they'll learn mathematics. You tell them language, they'll learn language. You tell them whatever, they will learn that because you are their superstar. This is very important. Teachers must rise to a place where children look at you and say, wow, this is what I want to be. How many children in your school want to become a teacher? That itself will tell you what kind you are. You must be that kind. A child should be aspiring, I want to be a teacher, because this is so great the way he is or she is. So, this is something a teacher must do because this is not a profession. In many ways, you're molding the next generation. How the world will be tomorrow depends on you. Let's make it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time and your influence on the world, Sadhguru. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadhguru and Stephen. Hello everyone, my name is Jacob from the Osiris and the World Education Summit team. I hope you're having a wonderful experience listening to this needed and timely conversation, because well-being has never been more important for our students and our staff than it is right now. Our training specialist, Katie Cavell, is, as of this minute, doing training analyses with school leaders across the world, offering support for their professional and student needs as the schools all start going back for the August term. Now, since you are attending this webinar, you actually qualify for a free training needs analysis with her, where she can discuss your professional development trajectory over the next year, as well as what you can do and what actions you can take to promote these acts of well-being across students and staff that Sadhguru has been talking about today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link to her calendar in the chat. All you have to do is click on that link, set up a free appointment with her, and I'll just take 30 seconds of pause right now whilst you go and do that. Thank you very much.